What's up, Internet? You're tuning in episode 32 of Nintendo Noise, Flip Screen Games' weekly Nintendo podcast. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined as always by my very good friends and co-hosts, Mr. Steven Radford.
Hello, hello.
And Mr. Chewy Huerta.
Goodbye.
Welcome back, boys. Chewy, it's good to see you again. I feel like it's been so long since we got to see each other,
So
Yeah. Last time we were together, we were just like, a few days ago.
Pounding cheesesteaks and, going to game
So
shops.
many cheesesteaks. I came home and all I ate was greens, just salads. And then even it was the Oscars the other night. And I was like, I'm just going to cut a bunch of vegetables and eat a veggie platter. I was done with the bread, meat, and cheese. So.
I think having multiple cheesesteaks in a day will do that to you. That makes sense. But, you can't say you didn't have the real Philly experience, I guess.
It was good. We beat The Simpsons.
We did. We beat the whole Simpsons arcade game. It was a great time.
Which character did you both play?
What's that?
Which character did you both play?
I
know
Bart.
You were Bart, right?
Mm-hmm.
What were you
And I played Marge.
Yeah, Marge is the go-to. She's my favorite. Get that vacuum cleaner up. It's great.
It really cleans things up.
It does.
So if you want to hear more about me and Chewy's misadventures when he came to visit Philly, make sure you go check out this week's upcoming episode of One More Thing that we just laid down. It was a fun one. We talked all about it. So you can hear more about
I found
what
out
we did.
that Chewy is a literal giant. Just
He's a tall guy.
He's
a tall guy.
Extremely tall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
It's the thing. When you're on a podcast, everybody's the same height, right? Like, you have no concept of what a person's shape is, really, right? Like, I don't know. Steve could be half my height. How would I ever know?
My dad is quite short. Maybe I'd take after him. Well, you'll just have to wait and see.
I don't know. You'll have to come to the States so we can find out.
I'm the height of Danny DeVito.
That would be great.
Can you
That's
imagine my show?
perfect for Philly.
It's like a twins scenario. You're the Arnold Schwarzenegger, and there's me. Like,
that's very
Danny
generous.
DeVito, just rock it up.
That's very generous to either me or Chewy to call us like Arnold Schwarzenegger in our build. But yeah, I'll take it. If you want to be the DeVito twin, I'll happily take that. Anyway. Let's talk about Nintendo, everybody. This is a big one, right? We've got a brand new Nintendo Switch game in Kirby and the Forgotten Land that we're going to talk all about today. And then, of course, we have the potentially sad, potentially expected news, depending on who you are, delay of Breath of the Wild 2 into spring 2023. So we're going to talk about...
Expected, Pete, it's still sad, even if it's expected.
It is sad,
but I think we can all still,
Yeah, I'm not trying to take that away. I'm just saying, for me, and we'll talk about this later, I felt as though the game wasn't coming out this year.
Sweet.
So is it disappointing? Yes, but it's also kind of all right, I prepared emotionally for this letdown. You know what I mean? I was ready for this hurt. So when it came, it wasn't too bad, But we're going to talk about all of that today on today's show. But before that, let me remind you that this episode of Nintendo Noise is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of March. They are, of course, Christian Oliveria, Christopher Valenz, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, a.k.a. Asobi, Mary Berry, Smilky Shake, Wakahula, and Zaid Ida. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/flipscreengames. Y'all are the realest of the real, and we appreciate your support of this fine program. Speaking of which, if you want to go and show your support over on that there Patreon, you can get a bunch of perks and goodies just like those fine folks did, including our show One More Thing, where we had 2 back-to-back great episodes, I have to say. Just phenomenal content lately over on that show. Best podcast on the internet, as we like to say. So go check that out. We've got a bunch of other stuff you can also get access to, like our Twitch archive and a bunch of good stuff. So if you want to go above and beyond to show your support, go head over to the Patreon and back us however you can. But if you don't have the money to toss our way over on Patreon, we have a bunch of other options for you to interact with the show. Head over to flipscreen.games, which is our website where you can find links to every other place that we are all over the web. You can find links to our Patreon, our Discord, our Twitch, where we're live every Wednesday and Thursday and a couple other days a week nowadays. bunch of stuff. And if you want to write into the show, just like a bunch of people did this week, remember you can write into us at questions@flipscreen.games or come join our Discord where we have a weekly thread every week getting questions for the show. So, now that all that's out of the way, let's talk about this Kirby situation, all right? Kirby and the Forgotten Land, it's out. You know, we're going to try to trend spoiler light on this discussion. I don't want to like spoil, big worlds or boss encounters for anybody, anything like that. But I do want to just kind of talk about how we're feeling about it, where we're at in the game, our likes and dislikes so far, how it's stacking up to other Kirby titles for us, all that good stuff. So, Chewy, why don't you start? How far into the game are you, and what are your thoughts at this point?
I think because I like to look up like how many worlds are in things whenever that's available. So I think I just hit like the midpoint of it. So I've played a few worlds, and I played them all on the plane ride back home. Basically, I had, like I said, I was in Philly visiting you, hanging out, having fun, and didn't get too much time to play while I was there. But the plane ride was a good 4.5 hours of. It'd been a long time since I hit that point where my Switch is like, recharge your console, it's gonna die. But that definitely happened during that session. But I played Kirby all the way through, and it was fun. I'd say Jackie was looking over, and she was just like smiling at everything going on screen, because of course Kirby's adorable, and all those things that Kirby does are just wacky. The mouthful stuff is great. Lots of cool little puzzles that go along with it, I guess. I guess, they're just kind of like gameplay features. It really does remind me of getting the different powers with Cappy in Mario Odyssey, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, the thing that I didn't really expect were all of the little side challenges that we have in it. And it's basically like you get one power, you have to go through this challenge as quickly as possible. It's kind of like a time trial thing. And there's like an extra little bonus if you get it under a certain time. It's different for whatever the levels are. But every time I ran into those, I'd be like, well, I'm playing it again until I get the score here, get the right speed.
I did that once, and it just gave me 100 extra coins, and I was like, yeah, I'm not.
It's so pointless.
That's exactly what happened to me, Steve. The first time I got one,
I'm not doing it.
It was funny too because I had been trying to get one, and I was like, "All right, this is taking me a while. I'll come back to this." And I went to another one of those little time trials, and that one, I just on my first try, I beat the target time, and they just gave me the coin bonus, and I was like, "Oh, that's it. Forget it. What a waste."
That's it. And I kept going throughout like the first two worlds, and then after that, I was like, "No, I'm not dealing with this."
No. I don't think I will.
It's good that the challenge is there, though, if you do want it. Like, I was always under the impression Kirby games were super easy.
They are.
But there's a lot of optional difficulty that I don't think makes it easy. Like, getting in those times can actually be really tricky. Especially if there's a bunch of enemies coming at you, or there's, like, walls in the way, you've got to try and hit it. And there's some skill involved with it as well, if you've got to aim at targets and things like that. It's not just super simple and breezing through. I mean, I'm playing on the wild mode, so maybe the baby mode or whatever they call it is really easy, and that's maybe what the older Kirby games were like.
The fact that they even have that option is like, that's big, right? Like, think about how we always say, like, why doesn't Nintendo put difficulty in games, right? And let me, tune things a little bit to my skill level. And I very much appreciate that that's at least an option in this game, I can't speak to how different they really are, but I was pleased to have a Kirby game be like, "Oh, do you want a little bit more challenge?" And I was like, "Yes, please, a little bit."
Yeah, I kind of wonder what happens when you don't play on wild mode, because basically the only thing I've noticed is when you finish the level, it will pop up with like all the little bonuses that you got, and one of them is like wild mode bonus, like you beat this on wild mode.
On wild mode, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like 50 coins or something. So
I think that's what you get, is just that small bonus, and if you can't do it on wild mode, just bump it down a notch, I guess. But I mean, no shade if you're not playing on wild mode. It's just the option that is the default, and I think it's the same as Yoshi's Crafted World as well, where the default is the more difficult mode, and you can turn it down so there's no real danger to you if enemies attack you and things.
Mm-hmm.
That's great, right? Because then it can still be like as child friendly as they want it to be, right? In the way that like Kirby's Epic Yarn was, and great, like that's cool. But I appreciate that this game has a little bit more. It asks more of you, and I still wouldn't say that it's difficult, but like, that was never the goal in my mind, right? When we were talking about what we hoped for this game, in the pre-release coverage, that was the biggest thing for me, right? Is like, Kirby Star Allies had levels where like you could just run to the right and not even attack the other enemies and you'd clear the level, and like that's not the case in this game for the most part,
I think for me the difficulty's on par with something like Mario 3D World or even Mario Odyssey. Like some of the enemies you do have to learn like what their patterns are. They give you a very big window in order to move out the way of them if you want to. It's not Elden Ring, certainly. You can quickly jump out the way if you want to. But I do think the level of difficulty is there. There's a lot of enemies coming at you. They are always targeting you. They do respawn.
I don't think it quite hits that level for me, but like that's fine. Like I don't say that as a criticism. Like I definitely think that, and who knows, maybe as I get to some of the later levels, I'll feel a little bit differently. But like I still haven't had a level where I've died. I haven't had an encounter that I've lost.
I've died on one of the treasure roads, but that's because I went in there without full health because I didn't go and sleep in my bed. I was going to the cafe every time and eating food, like eating in, and wasting all my money, and I didn't realize I could have just gone in my house and slept.
But you do get like I think one of the special figures, because you collect all these little capsule toys,
I picked that one,
Yeah, so you do get one, at least that, if you did spend all your money,
Yeah, and you could do the shift there. I think that for me was one of the biggest surprises for the game was the town building side of it. It's made me really want to collect all of the Waddle Dees and find all the hidden ones. And then that opens up the puzzles for finding all the Waddle Dees, because I actually do consider them puzzles, Trey. I know you said they're just like part of the game mechanics. Some of them really are like, where the fuck is it?
Yeah.
How do I find it? And thinking, it's constantly got me thinking what the surprise challenges are going to be at the end, because they're all like hidden. So like I'll see a poster and I'll be like, I bet that's
one of them.
Yeah, it's that one of them. I just finished a level and it was like it revealed one of them. It was like get to the end without stepping on any mud, and I was like, how the hell am I going to do that? This seems impossible.
It's a mud
so I'm
level.
going to have to go in there with the specific goal in mind and redo that level, and I love that. I love the replayability around it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on both of those counts, Steve. I think the replayability is a huge factor, and like having those different kind of like Mario 64 style, like, oh, go back and do this time and do this time. That really works for me. And I do agree that the game has a good amount of puzzles, and like I think more so than like platforming difficulty or combat difficulty, that's where a lot of the gameplay nuance comes from for me, is like being in an environment and being like, okay, like what can I interact with here? Like what are the secret conditions? Where is the secret Waddle Dee? Like am I supposed to interact with these items for this reason? Or have I gotten this ability yet? Can I find one of the upgrade scrolls maybe? Like there's you're very, very much incentivized to explore. And the first time I play a level, I never find everything. And I like that a lot, because to me, like, I've always really enjoyed, well, maybe not every Kirby game, but I've enjoyed Kirby games quite a bit, right? I think they have a great aesthetic. I love their music. I think they have some of the best sound design in any Nintendo game. Like, there's just a lot of things to appreciate about Kirby, but I feel like, with mixed results, like there are some games that have really nailed, I think, like the difficulty and just like, fun element of it, but it's always just been like another platformer, right? It's always just been like kind of a lesser version of Mario. And I feel like while there, I guess, is some of that in this, right? We can draw plenty of comparisons to Odyssey. It feels more unique, and it feels like it has more of its own identity than I feel like it's had in a while.
That's because Odyssey kind of took Kirby's thing, right? Kirby's
Yeah.
thing was I swallow it and I become that. I get that skill. Like Odyssey did that same thing with Cappy. It was like, oh, you'll become that thing.
You
But
just
I
mind
love the
control it.
yeah, you're just mind controlling it rather than like consuming it and swallowing it, and God knows where it goes afterwards because you spit it out and it just becomes a ball rather than the person coming back out. But
Kirby's a
it's
fucking
kind of
like demon lord. That's
kind of
the
dark,
answer.
really, when you think about it.
Yeah,
I
dude.
don't know what's going on Planet Popstar or whatever.
Kirby's an
Planet
old one,
Superstar, where they
right?
live.
Like he's like Kirby's like equivalent to like Cthulhu or something. Like he's an ancient god of reckoning.
Yeah, and going around and killing all of these like cute, gorgeous enemies.
Every
yes.
enemy
The
is
most
so
adorable dogs in the world, and I've got to shoot them in the face. It's like great.
Or consume them, and like some of them
consume them. Yeah,
It's so funny
There
to me
were
how some of the
some-
enemies don't even like attack you. Like they're just there, and Kirby just like he's like, oh, and he just murders, just ices everybody, dude. He's such a monster.
Yeah, all the turtles, I feel bad every time I kill them. They're all so cute. I love them all, and each time they come around, I'm just like, well, I'm sorry, buddy. You gotta go.
and the little dudes that are like firing bombs at me. They're still got cute smiley faces on them. They're still adorable as anything. They're just
Fuck
having
them
fun.
though. They're throwing bombs at me. I don't care about that
Yeah,
as much.
they are.
They're
Yeah.
cute, but it's like
The
whatever.
dogs,
fuck
they're just yipping around, and they got a cute smiley face on them.
Until
And
they
the bunny
bite
rabbits
your
hopping
ass.
about. Yeah, I know. That is the one thing I just find troubling about the game is the lore behind it and
Kirby's the bad
what's
guy.
going
I
on.
think.
Yeah,
You know?
Kirby is the bad guy. I'm convinced of that. Just going in but saving the Waddle Dees, I don't know if the Waddle Dees just moved in and we're just like, right, this is our planet now, and just
They're all
fucking
stranded there, though. You know, what are they supposed to
Yeah.
do? Go back to their own dimension? You know, they got to survive somehow.
But
True.
I'm in the same place as Chewie as I've just finished World 3. Again, it's just the town building stuff I was so surprised by, just unlocking all of these different places, and I've spent I don't know any game with a gacha machine in I'm obsessed with. Shenmue.
Yeah.
I do really
The-
like that.
the-
I like the collectible nature of this game, like the fact that
yeah.
like you can find either like the things that'll help you upgrade your powers, or you can find like the little gotcha balls, and like it literally has the trophy system from Melee in it, right? Where it's like you find all these cute little trophies, and you get a little gallery and everything. It's awesome.
You can put them in your house as well. Like I've got.
I haven't
three of my
unlocked that
manticores
yet.
in my house.
So
Oh,
I'm a
the
little
house
bit
is
behind
great.
you two. I just finished World 2, so I haven't found enough Waddle Dee to like. I probably have now, but I have to go back to the town.
Mm-hmm.
So like the only thing I've unlocked in the town so far is like the first
got the
2 or
shop.
3, the shop, and then there's like that other building. I forget what's even in it.
The cafe. Have you got that yet?
I don't think I have that yet.
I
no.
think that's the next upgrade.
Yeah.
And that's got some fun mini games to it too.
Yeah. I
Kirby
like the
always has good
minigames
mini
in that.
games. That's
Yeah.
that's definitely something that I feel like they've always gotten right. So
Not
yeah,
as good as a food cutscene as Monster Hunter Rise, though. Monster Hunter Rise's food eating cutscene. It's really up there for me. It's like it's clenched. I don't think anything can surpass those cute little cats just waiting for me to eat my food, just bringing it over to me and just like, "Are you gonna like it?" Yeah, every single time it made me smile. It's great.
it is good. But yeah, so I'm
Everything
excited to engage with that stuff a little bit more.
Yeah.
That feels
I've still
again
got
like
like 3 or 4 more buildings to unlock. Like it opens up a whole new area when you get to a certain point.
oh
and
okay.
There's like even more buildings to get. Some of them
Yeah.
need like 200 Waddle Dees. It's crazy.
I like that.
So-
Like I appreciate that the game like that's always been the thing, right? Is like I remember playing Star Allies and I was like having fun with it, but once I realized that I could just barrel my way through levels and not even care, it was kind of like what's the point of this anymore, right? And it's like
Yeah.
I
I
appreciate
don't think you can with this because you need the like
You
some of the
do.
hidden Waddle Dees in order to
Right.
even unlock the boss levels. It really limits you from progressing the game unless you actually do spend some time in the
and I,
levels. and the
I
level
love
design's
that.
Great.
Like I feel like it's doing a really good job of actually incentivizing you to engage with all of the work that's been put into giving their
Yeah.
like putting secrets in the levels and giving you things to discover. But also you have that broader incentive of like, oh well, not only do I need those things to progress through the game, I'm getting rewarded for doing these extra things and filling out the town and unlocking new features and new abilities, and you know. It's just like
Yeah, the
it's
new
got a good
abilities
loop.
is a real thing. I was like really surprised about the new abilities. This is my like first proper mainline Kirby game. I've played demos, I've played bits of Kirby games. I've never played a full Kirby game. I don't know. It's just one of those ones that's just like a gap in my gaming history. And now I can finally say I filled it, and I am in love with this game. It's just so everything about it's so charming, so cute. I was playing it at my parents' house this weekend. I showed my mum. She was like, "What are you playing?" I was like, "I'm playing Kirby." And I showed it to her. I was like, "What do you think?" She's like, "Oh, it's a pink boo with a nicer looking face." I was like, "Yeah, that's about how you could explain. You could describe Kirby, I guess."
It always reminds me of I think it's the second Kirby game, which is Dreamland, and that was the first one where he had the ability to like do the copy powers, because in his original game he didn't have that ability. And like the intro to the game is like they tell you how to draw Kirby, and it's like draw a circle and then put a little friend smile, and it's just like
Oh, that's so cute. Yeah, I just love it. I've not played a game that's just so cute and just everything is just so charming
I love
and
Kirby.
wonderful and for such a long time. And every single time I do the mouthful mode and I find a new one, I'm just like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like the one where the car was just the beginning, right? And they give you that right at the start. It really sucks you in, and you get that awesome
Oh, it sucks you
intro
in?
song. Yeah, it really sucks you in with
Ba-dum-ps.
the and you're the car, but then there's like that. The one that horrifies me the most is when he swallows like a circle, and he just becomes this thing that shoots wind. You know, you ever have one of
Yeah.
those when you
Yeah,
were a
yeah,
kid,
yeah.
like the Zorb thing, and
Yeah.
you like pulled it and it would just fire
I
air.
love that
He
one.
becomes one of those.
I love
And
when you
I
get
went
in
on
the boat.
yeah, yeah, you go in the boat and you're like riding the boat, but you're just like riding the boat by firing air outwards. It's insane, insane. It's just so
That
creative how they even thought that that would be one of the things to do.
that boat confused me so much at first because I was like, "How? What direction am I going?" Because I'm
You're
so used to
facing
like,
backwards.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're facing backwards, but you're controlling as if you're facing forwards, and so had to really change my brain to wrap it around that whole control scheme.
Yeah, I'm surprised by how good the mouthful mode stuff is. Because, again, like one of the things I remember talking about in the pre-release coverage is it feels like Kirby's been kind of stuck in a rut of like, what's the latest gimmick, right? Like, what's the thing this time around,
I guess
And
this is the same. It is a gimmick,
it
right?
is, but I think it's better than they've been in a while. Because a lot of times it just feels like kind of tacked on, Whereas like I don't feel that way about it in this game. Like I feel like so far anyway, they've done a good job of I've already like I am I think one whole world behind you two. So I think I just finished world 2.
You've just done. Is everything to do with water on the one you've just done?
Yeah, so that's 2,
Yeah, I
right?
think
The
that's
beach stuff.
yeah.
That's level 2.
So even that far, right? Like I've only seen so many levels, right? And I feel like I've seen 6 of these already, or maybe more. Like, I don't want to like rattle them off because I don't want to spoil them for people. But
There's some you see in the trailers, right? The we know, the 3 we knew about, the
right,
car, the cone, and the vending machine. They were like, and all of them are so different. All of them are puzzles that you need to solve. So you've got like the cone, which allows you to like dig into the ground and find things or unlock
I think it's
things and
8.
reveal things.
I think I've seen 8 things so far, that's a
It's mad,
lot,
isn't
right?
it?
Like
I
Yeah.
think there's basically like one in each level.
and like that's great because I feel like it's never overstayed its welcome to just be like, oh yeah, okay, I'm in the robot again, right? Oh okay, yeah, I got a little sidekick again. Okay, like it just
Plus, I think it feels more core to the Kirby experience. Like it's tying into the fact that Kirby eats things,
Right.
but this time he's ate something that's a little bit too big and couldn't quite consume it in its entirety. So then you have to spit it out once you've done the small little puzzle that you were doing at that point, and then you get your power back. You go on your way, and I love that every single time you've got a power, like you're the guy with the sword, or you're the guy that shoots fire or whatever. Even when you go into the mouthful mode,
got
it
the little
keeps
hat
that little
on.
flourish. Like there's the little hat, or there's something else that you've got, like the little tornado or whatever. And so you've still got that power once you come out of the mouthful mode, which I think is so cool.
I do like that a lot. Yeah, and like I don't know, the fact that like you use them for combat, but you also use them for like traversal and like exploring the level and unlocking new areas, like
Yeah.
it feels more thought out, you know? Like it feels like like you said, like a good evolution on like the integral parts of the game versus like, you know, like okay, yeah, here's the next thing that we're going to do this game and then you'll never see it again. And like we might never see it again. That's fine, but like I don't know, it feels like
And
it's
Kirby does a lot of that,
yeah.
where there are like just gimmicks to whatever the game is, and that's like we get it that one time, and now it's something else, right?
Yeah, and
I don't
like
think that's just Kirby though, because like Mario's the same. We had
Yeah, I
Flood,
guess
went
so,
we
away.
we had a
yeah.
whole
Had Cappy,
conversation
it
about
goes
that,
away.
right? Where
Yeah.
like those things don't feel like gimmicks because they're thoughtful and they feel like yes, this is a meaningful evolution on what we're doing with Mario, and it's like yeah, it's different this time around, and this is kind of it's still a gimmick, but like it doesn't feel like I don't know. It doesn't feel tacked on. It doesn't feel, you know, I think we're circling the drain at this point. But like there's a difference in the quality
Yeah,
and
it's
the thought
not
that's
like
put
we've
into
gone.
it.
We need to get motion controls in here somehow. So let's just do this little flying zone, and that'll be the motion control bit, and then we'll go back to playing the game as normal. Because that did happen a lot during the Wii generation. That it was, oh, it's a normal game, and I'm just playing with the nunchuck and the Wii remote as if it was a normal game, and now I've got to the bit where I've got to slash the screen
Right.
to get through some vines because they needed to add motion control into this because it's really a port from a 360 game or whatever.
Well, I'm like, I don't know. To me, it feels like the difference between like how I feel about Wind Waker versus how I feel about Twilight Princess, where I'm like, oh, like the water and like the ship and how that influences the world and the design and all that stuff, like feels meaningful. It feels like a meaningful choice to be like, this is the one where you're on a boat versus being like, you turn into a wolf for half the game for reasons. I don't know. You know, like I never felt like that justified its existence beyond just being like it's different and like that's not great in my opinion. Like I want more than that. Like I want to feel about it the way I feel about like Cappy, right? Where it was like yeah, like at first you're like, oh, that's kind of a weird choice, but then you play it and you're like, oh, this is doing something for me. And that's how I feel about mouthful mode, right? And I'm surprised by how much I feel that way. Like I just did one of the mini games where like it was the stairs thing. If you played the game, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And you had to like move them all around to get them on these different switches to like open doors. And I was like, this is like a good puzzle. Like, and it's not hard, but it was like figuring it out on a timer and like all those things. I was like, oh yeah, like this is different. Like this is a lot different than what I feel like I would normally be doing in a Kirby game. But it doesn't, you know, it doesn't feel like this weird side bullcrap. It's like, okay, like this is something that's freshening up the game and giving me something else to do rather than just running to the next level.
Yeah, I barely made that one within the timer.
Me
was the
too.
close
It was
one for
tough.
me. Yeah, I will say though, like with the town building stuff, I do feel like some of the mini game things are unlocked pretty slowly because I didn't feel like I had them until after World 3, and I was like, oh, this feels like a real change of pace as to what has been going
I know
on.
the one the one you're talking about, right? The big building at the top.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think it was even like maybe early World 3 or so when I unlocked like the cafe little mini game and stuff. And up until that point, I'm like torn about it because to some extent, I feel like, yes, I guess there were like little mini games and challenges through those challenges, like along the path. But before then, I just didn't feel like there was much of a need or desire for me to go to Waddle Dee Town. I was like, all right, I'm here again. I guess I've got a blueprint. You know, like that was all I could
That was
really
the
do.
only time when it told me to
Yeah.
go back, and I went there looking right at the beginning for the deliveries place because I had those present mode, the present full codes or whatever they're called, the present codes, because they were tweeting them out. There's one on the news app on the Switch, and there's also one on the micro site. If you haven't got them, they give you like coins and items and things, so
Oh.
they're worth doing.
Didn't know that.
But make sure you put it in, they're case sensitive. So if it doesn't work, make sure you put caps lock on. It's the most dumb decision they ever made.
Yeah.
But that wasn't there, and I was like, oh, okay. I don't really know what else to do here because there was literally nothing there. Then the
Hmm.
building opens with the where you can go and you can choose, because I like that you can choose what you want to go into a level with as well. Like you can go to that shop
Get
to do the
powers.
blueprints and upgrade your powers, but you can also say, well, I want to go in with the hammer out of the gate. Like, that's my favorite one. I want to go in with the hammer, or I've played this level before, and I think maybe the fire is what I want to go with this time. And I like that you can go and you can pick and choose which one you want. There's also the dude there as well. I don't know if you've unlocked him yet, Pete, where he just tells you stats. He just reels stats off.
Oh
He's like,
yeah.
you've
No, that's
collected
awesome.
3,000 coins, and everyone else in the game has collected a combined total of like 300 million coins or something crazy. It's just
Yeah.
like all of these stats of what's been going on in the
I
game.
love stuff
Every
like
time I
that.
go back, it's just like progressed exponentially. It's some the crazy number of coins and levels and Waddle Dees saved. It's really cool. I love it. And he tells you where to find the blueprints if you've missed some. So he's a really useful
Oh,
guy to go
cool.
talk to.
That's
Hmm.
good to know.
He told me I hadn't missed any yet, so I've been doing well on that. But I will say, also back to your point, I think you made earlier, Pete. One time I almost got every hidden Waddle Dee in a level, and I saw, like, I zoomed past the one that I had missed, and I
Oh
knew I'd missed
no.
it, and I was like,
Yeah.
there was no way for me to like go back for it. It was just like one of those levels, you know? And I was just like, no, I just saw it. I was so close. It was exciting, but then I was like, well, and it's right at the end of the level too. And I was like, I really have to run through this whole thing to get this one Waddle Dee. I didn't end up doing it. I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to the next level. Too disappointed now. But yeah, also I do think the mini games break things up really well, but I'm like torn between like, are they coming too slowly? Like I like the Waddle Dee stuff, but knowing that I'm like halfway through already, I'm like, man, it took me like half of the game to make this town interesting at
You're
all.
halfway
Sure.
through. I guess you're halfway through without 100%ing, and I think the game then wants to encourage you to go and 100% it. I
That's
think that's
true.
where the
Yeah.
difficulty in Kirby comes is getting everything and finding everything.
Hmm.
And I'm looking forward to seeing what else unlocks in the town. At the moment, I'm just really enjoying doing the shifts at the cafe. I think it's amazing. It's one
Yeah.
of my favorite things to do. And then I can spend all that money at the gacha machines because I don't just have one machine anymore. There's
Hmm.
multiple. So there's like whole new collections to get, and it
As
goes up
soon
in
as I
price every
saw,
single time. Like the first one, yes, 10 coins a piece. Not 10 coins a piece on the next machine, and I can imagine the machine after that's not going to be cheaper either.
yeah, as soon as I saw that first set, say like volume one, I was like, oh, well, there's gonna be more of these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So we have a couple questions on Kirby here that I want to jump into. This one comes from Mango, who wrote in and said, "Do you guys think that the next Kirby will be a refinement of this linear 3D formula, or could it take another big step in the same, or another big step in game direction? Not necessarily asking for predictions, but also want to know what you'd like to see for the series after this." I think
I'd like
there's
it to be this, I think, again. But do you know what? I could see there being room for a 2D and a 3D Kirby.
yeah
Like we have 2D Zelda,
potentially.
3D Zelda. It's just like we get one team to do a 2D Kirby that's like Star Allies or Epic Yarn. And then we have these like bigger 3D Kirby's every few years when they can put the time in, the effort in, and build out these levels and build out these worlds and give us more things. I think that would be a nice divide of time and labor for us to see.
It could give Kirby the chance to like grow more too, like
Yeah.
to continue in this direction and have it feel like bigger and, maybe more akin to something like Bowser's Fury or something like that, a little more open, a little bit, more
Yeah, I think I would
deeper.
like that, the levels to be connected in some way rather than there being an overworld. I think I loved that in Bowser's Fury, and if it wasn't just I go up to an overworld and I go to these like they're like kind of like smaller Mario Odyssey worlds with a different camera perspective. I think it very much is that 3D world camera perspective because it's like fixed, but you can sort of move it a little bit, but not really. It would be great to kind of at least while you're in the big worlds, right? Like the first one where you're going, I think it's the first one or the second one, you're in that shopping center. It'd be cool to go from there straight into the next level rather than having to jump back out into an overworld and float around with, or as Chewie found, the go into the list and just select the level,
Yeah.
which is a very useful tip.
And I feel like, once you see like the beginnings and ends of levels too, like it feels like they made them pretty.
They did,
They made
yeah.
them feel connected. Like the settings are similar and everything. So I'm like, just a little closer, and we could get there. Where it's just like seamless transition to the next little challenge. But I also think like the the thing that they kind of have to work out is how seamless it is to get like that Waddle Dee count at the end and kind of your score count, because each one is kind of planned out around that. So yeah, I don't know.
What I mean is I don't think it needs to take you at the end of the level back out. It could then have that nice transition that we basically have anyway, where it does the Waddle Dee count and then you carry on walking. A great example of this is in Persona 5. Like you end a battle and it'll like count up everything you did, and then it'll smoothly animate out. Like you'll see the characters walk away and then it'll go back to what you were doing.
I mean, like Odyssey's like that too, right? Like think about if it was more akin to, okay, like I've gotten 12 Waddle Dees while I was out here. I can go back and now deliver them back to the town and upgrade my stuff and get a new power and then head back out, and, something like that I think makes sense. But in terms of like whether or not the next game will be a refinement of this, I think it will. And for a couple reasons, I think this is obviously like a new direction, and the idea that like they would do this for one game and then like just move off and do something else. It's not usually how Nintendo operates. Like there is a bit of iteration usually, right? Where you want to try to refine the formula. But also the game is already setting quite a few sales records for Kirby. So I think that there's also probably going to be some encouragement to continue in this way, the same way that like we talked about Dread, right? Where it's like, you can imagine Nintendo's going to double down on Metroid now, right? So Christopher Dring from gamesindustry.biz had a tweet about this, which gives some context about kind of like where it's at overall in its performance so far. So Kirby and the Forgotten Land is #1 in the UK boxed retail charts this week. It comfortably beat Tiny Tina, which is at #2. It is the biggest ever Kirby launch by a big margin, and it is already the 5th biggest Kirby game ever in the UK after just 1 week. And then in a follow-up to that, Chris said, obviously, it's still a small series for Nintendo. The launch is a little bit below of last year's Metroid Dread. So,
I'm surprised Metroid did better than Kirby. I thought Kirby would have clinched that one.
Kirby's never been that popular, I think
it has neither's Metroid. I remember looking at the stats for it, and it's just like, they keep making these, but there's like they only sell 1.5 million copies.
That's the thing, though.
Low numbers.
They barely keep making Metroid.
That's the thing, is what's weird about it, right? It's like there's only a few Metroid games, right? But like there's 1 million Kirby games. They put out a Kirby. There's been like 3 Kirby games on Switch. Like, this is the 4th one. If you count the free to play thing.
I guess maybe it's because it's HAL and not Nintendo that are really leading the dev in it. It's just like, yeah, we want to do this when we're not working on Smash or whatever. Like, this is what we're going to be doing. If we're making Kirby games.
It's not always HAL, though. I'm pretty sure the last 2 weren't.
Really?
I think.
This one definitely was.
This one definitely is, yeah.
At the beginning, yeah.
But yeah, I mean...
But it's their thing, though, right? It's their babies. Kirby is HAL Labs' baby.
Sakurai created it, yeah.
And I can see that's why they want to keep making them. I don't really know what else HAL do other than
they've got
Kirby
the Box Boy stuff.
Okay.
Part-Time UFO was theirs, but yeah, basically just Kirby on Switch for now. But they have a lot of Oh man, I was looking at the Wikipedia right now. One of my favorite games on 3DS, Picross 3D Round 2. That's a HAL Labs game, and it's so good. I just listen to that soundtrack sometimes. It's solid.
Nice. I mean, they have great music, right? Like I think Kirby has some of the best composition game in video games. I think there are some great pieces of Kirby music, right? Like out of this world. So
Star Allies was HAL.
Okay.
Kirby Clash was co-developed with another developer named Van Pool, but they did also work on it. So
yeah,
this would be the second full HAL game on Switch, HAL Kirby game.
There you go. So yeah, I mean, the fact that this game has gotten more attention, it's the most critically well-received Kirby game in a long time. I think it might be in the conversation for the best critically received Kirby game overall. And it seems to already be on track to be the best seller. All of those things point to us getting another Kirby game in this style, I would think.
I'm amazed that they made one game for the Wii U. Just Kirby and the Rainbow Curse. And then they have like 1 million on 3DS, but that probably just
they knew that console was doomed. They were like, yes,
Star Allies, we need a little bit more time.
3DS.
Yeah.
That was one of the first games on the Switch. You know, people forget. That was an early one.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'd be more than happy to see them do another game in this style. In terms of what I'd like to see next, I think so far this game has been everything I wanted to see for a new Kirby. So, you know, give me some more. See what else you got in the tank. And then in a similar kind of vein, Asobi wrote in and said, what games do you think would benefit from a large 3D game next, similar to what happened with Kirby? And how would you like to see them approach that idea in terms of gameplay? I think this is an interesting question.
Yeah, because I don't really know what 2D games we've got left that haven't entered the 3D world. Like, I'm ready for a 3D Metroid at this point.
Yeah, I think Yoshi's the answer.
Had 3D, right? No, like Crafted Worlds, like 3D, like you move around the place. Like maybe it's 2.5D, but you definitely.
I guess it's like side scrolling versus like moving 3-dimensionally.
Yeah,
you know?
like it's 2.5, but it's not really a 3D game in the way that this is.
Mm-hmm.
I've got zero affinity for Yoshi. I don't really care if they make a 3D Yoshi game or not.
Oh, I love Yoshi.
Annoying.
I really want a good Yoshi game. I feel like Yoshi's Island rules, you know, and it's like they done my man dirty.
Never got back there.
No, I liked Yoshi's story as a kid, but it's not great. You know.
Mm-hmm.
I think Yoshi's the obvious answer, personally. I mean, if we want to get real spicy with it, I mean, Mother
would be nice. Yeah, I would love. I would love an Earthbound, a 3D remake. Do you know a Donkey Kong game? We're ready for it as well. I feel like we've had one or two decent 3D Donkey Kong games, and then they went back to the country stuff.
Only one. It's only Donkey Kong 64.
Yeah,
I think that's the only 3D
right?
Donkey Kong game that's ever been made. If I'm not.
Yeah.
Well,
give us another one then. I'd be very happy with a 3D Donkey Kong at this point, and I'm fairly sure that one's in development.
Yeah, me too. But like just a modern like a attempt at like a Donkey Kong Country like feels like like that's the thing to do, right? Like I would love to see that.
And I also think Sonic could really benefit from looking at what Kirby's done. I'm concerned about that 3D Sonic game having now played Kirby because I feel like they've gone in the wrong direction a little bit.
Sonic could really benefit from not being made by Sega, I think.
They could really benefit from just making good games, yeah. Sonic Mania was good, but like if you get that team to do like a 3D one.
Well, you know why that game's good, right? Like it's like the game.
Fan game, yeah.
Yeah, it was like a guy who made good Sonic fan games, and they're like, oh, what if you made a real one? And then that was it. Like, where is Sonic Mania 2? Like, what the fuck? Like, you know what I mean? Like, slam dunk. And then they're just like, nah, okay. That's fine. That's good. You got one. That's all you need. It's like, okay. This is like controversial, but I also feel like I could see them doing another Star Fox game that is in the 3D adventure style of like Star Fox Adventure on the GameCube, but you also have ship combat and like the stuff that people actually want in a Star Fox game, and having like a marriage of those two things, I think could be really cool. Like if we got a big budget, Star Fox game that had a solid story and you had like, like similar to like Ratchet and Clank, right? You have like multiple planets that you go to and there's story beats on each of those planets. And then all of the time, like, oh, like I'm on, I'm in the Lilat system and I'm on Corneria and now I got to go to this planet, and you jump in your ship and you fly out into space. And then while you're flying to the next planet, you're going through a standard Star Fox level and fighting and doing all that stuff. And then you land on the planet and, oh no, it's under attack. I got to fight more guys before I can safely land, and then go do the Zelda stuff on the ground.
Yeah, they could just make it Mass Effect.
Yes. Yes, Chewie. We're Guardians of the Galaxy.
I don't think we're getting it. I think the game everyone wants Nintendo to make is not a game Nintendo wants to make. I just don't see them making that style of game.
That's stupid.
I know.
They've done it before.
It's their IP. Did they do it? Wasn't it another company? Was it Rare that made it? And not internally? Adventures?
I think that might be right.
Yeah, that was Rare.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but
and
also,
it was a
so
different
what?
game initially.
Like, hire another studio to make it then. You paid Platinum to make a terrible Wii U game. Like, why don't we hire a good studio
Well,
to
they
game?
paid Platinum to make a great Switch game, so let's not forget about that, because Astral Chain apparently slaps.
I don't care if it slaps. They made a bad Star Fox game, and I'll never forgive them. Okay?
Okay.
They put the nail in the coffin of
That's
a
the
beloved
one reason.
Nintendo franchise, Steve.
That's the one reason you have a vendetta against Platinum Games.
It's not the
Just that
only
bad
reason,
Star
but
Fox
it's the
game.
primary reason. The other thing I hate them for is they made a really terrible Avatar the Last... Oh, no. It was Legend of Korra. Like, action game, which was garbage. And, again, that game could have been awesome. I love Avatar. It's a perfect universe for a video game. And what did they do? They phoned it in, Steve. What else is...
They've got to be the most hit and miss studio, though, right? Because they have some absolute smash hits with Astral Chain and Bayonetta, and then they put out stuff like Babylon's Fall that's just come out on the PlayStation 5 as an exclusive. It's just a mess.
I said it in the
Don't
Discord.
understand it.
I said it in the Discord. It was a little hyperbolic, but I said like every other game they put out is bad. And it's like, go look at it, right? Like their track record, it's very uneven. And like the ones that are bad, you know why, right? Like it's like, okay, this is clearly like a for hire job.
Rush
like,
job.
Yeah, like whatever. But like they also, it doesn't matter. We don't need to talk about Platinum anymore.
The next one, then they're ready for a good game. So let's get Star Fox Adventures 2.
No, don't you dare
Star
say
Fox
that.
Adventures ready, because then we'll have a good one.
No, because Bayonetta 3 is already on the docket.
That's
So
gonna be
as
bad
soon
now.
as they hit Star Fox,
Oh,
Adventures
no.
2, it's
That'll
gonna-
be good.
gonna
I'm
ruin
fine
it.
if Star Fox comes out first, and then Bayonetta can be a disaster, because I don't like that series.
Oh my god. We're just pissing everybody off today. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it's frustrating to see Nintendo have franchises that you know could be more than they are and just have no interest in developing them. You know?
Yeah. Or they
I think
just
they know
take
their
really long.
markets, though.
What's that?
I think they know their markets. I think they know what they want to sell and what sells for them, and what some people want isn't what sells.
So I agree with that sentiment, but I also feel like Nintendo regularly, like, there's a very obvious thing where it's like, this would probably make a lot of money, right? Like, this would be successful, and they're like, nah.
You mean like putting all of your old collection of games ready for sale on a store?
Yeah, or I don't know. How about
Or
releasing
something?
Metroid Dread at any point in the last 5-6 years while Metroidvanias have been a dominantly popular friend, and then they're like, yeah,
But
alright,
it wouldn't
okay,
have been on
okay.
the Switch. That's the problem. It wouldn't have been on the Switch.
We'll take back
They
the
did
credit.
Samus Returns while they were doing it, right?
Yeah,
Had
but
that remake.
they sent that game out to die. They're like, oh yeah, it's a 3DS game while everyone's playing the Switch. Like, if that game had come out on Switch, it would have been popular.
I know. I hope it does come to Switch because I want to play it.
Would be nice for Mercury Storm. And see, that's another great example. Did they have a studio that could make a great Metroidvania? No, but they made a partnership with Mercury store. Like
They should just buy them. They should really just buy
I'm
them.
sure they will. If they make a couple more games that deliver like that, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Especially
But
if
then
somebody
at the
else is
same
sniffing
time,
it.
you have like Retro doing also the 3D Metroid stuff, but then everything else has been canceled. So who
Yeah,
knows? I don't know. I don't understand their decisions. They had a Boo game in the works. That sounds amazing. Why not
That
just
Boo
let them
game
make
did
it?
look good. Yeah.
Why
That
would
Boo
you
It
do
looks so
this?
cute. The artwork. I loved it.
Maybe they were
someday.
like, just make this Luigi's Mansion 3. Done. No, we don't need another game with booze in. We got enough.
Yeah.
Like we need another Mario game.
We need Waluigi's Witch Hunt or whatever instead. And it's Waluigi finally gets his own game and he goes hunting for ghosts and witches and things. Done.
I think, and it's a Souls-like game.
Yes, it's a Souls-like game. Commission it right now, Nintendo.
From Software, and it looks exactly like a From Software game, except you play as Waluigi, and he has like a
there's
weird cloak.
no jump button in this one. No,
No
jump button. It's taken out. No jump.
Uh,
Or jump with the L stick, because apparently that's the thing.
Steve, I got one for you. It's Wario Land.
Yeah, we need a Wario Land.
Make a 3D
What-
Wario
It's just
Land
gone.
game.
It's just gone.
You know?
Do you know I'm fine if that stays 2D? Very fine if that stays 2D.
Sure,
It's
but-
one of my favorite 2D platforms.
But why not?
We had Wario World.
Yeah, that one's
Kinda
kind
felt
of
like that
3D,
did it.
right?
Let's just say I can take or leave that one. Give me Wario Land. If you do a good Wario World, fine.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Assume that it's good, right? Assume that it's going to be good.
Yeah.
That's another one that you.
Then I'd be very happy with that. That would be fine with me. And we can put some like mini games in there where Wario's collecting money and doing scams and things that you could really play into. I think
Make
It'd
it
be really cool.
make it Wario's Odyssey, and then just have he's like collecting moon instead of moons, it's suns. Like it's like like he's just
We
biting
need
on
a
Mario's
year of
thing.
Wario. We had like the year of Luigi. Just do a year of Wario.
We need another year of Luigi. They fucked that right up, man. That was
Yeah,
like
it
one,
was
that was like the
boring, though.
least successful year in Nintendo's like entire history as a company, and of course they made it the year of Luigi. Unbelievable.
It's just Luigi. So-
Wow, the disrespect. How dare you say that right after you said we should have a year of Wario? Wario's a monster. Disgusting animal of a man. Luigi is a paragon of virtue. All right. So anyway, yeah, give me Mass Effect, but in this Star Fox in the style of Mass Effect. Chewie said it best. All right, so let's jump into, I guess, our second talking point this week. I don't know what we're calling it. It's a second main topic because this is a very important week. Breath of the Wild 2 has been delayed. You guys seem really
Told ya.
surprised. You seem shocked.
I'm not surprised, but I'm upset about it because I was hoping it was coming this year for two reasons. One, I want to play the game. Two, I predicted it was coming this year.
You sure did, Steve.
It's now not. So I'm not getting that point, unlike you two who successfully predicted a delay till 2023.
To take it back to our predictions that we checked in on just a few weeks back after Kirby, right? Here we go. We have another update in that the sequel to Breath of the Wild, which still does not have a name, has been delayed to 2023, spring 2023. Steve thought it would come in December. That means Chewie and I got some points on the board. So now it is tied 2-0 for Steve and then 2 for Chewie. So there's some movement.
It's 3-2-3 for you lot, but it's fine because we all got 2 points for the Pokemon release.
Oh, yeah, I guess
Right.
we-
3-2-3.
yeah.
Okay, fine.
It was a slam dunk.
Okay, there you go, Steve. You still got some points. Don't worry.
The
about
one
it.
date
I've
that
still
was
got some
given
points.
to us.
Yeah, that one day that was given to us. Chewie was in the lead with 4 points, then that got ripped away from him.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about it when we
What
talk
about-
about PlayStation Spartacus on Flip Screen this week. Steve is really good at, getting predictions right when they're given to him
Oh,
by
get
other
out of it.
people.
No.
Yeah, when the date is handed to him by someone else. That's what a great prediction. I think this thing that has already been confirmed is going to happen. Wow, crazy.
I was being nice. I was saying Chewie predicted Advance Wars bang on and then got it stolen away from him and you had to make it toxic and horrible.
Whatever. All right. You and the community are so set on making me a heel. I'll be a heel. All right. If you need me to be the villain, I'll be the villain, Steve. Okay. So I'm happy Breath of the Wild got delayed because now I got points. Is that what you want to hear? Is that what you want to hear, Steve? Is that what you need?
You sabotaged it, didn't you? You made them delay. You called up Inuma and you were just like, come on, mate. Nice new haircut. And delay the game for me.
That's all it took. I paid for his haircut, and he's like, you know what, Pete? For you, for my favorite host of Nintendo Noise, I will delay this highly anticipated video game.
I know, great hairdresser. Really sort you out. Mate, you look so smart with that like silver fox look. You look great.
He does look good.
And he went for it. He went for it.
He did. So, thanks, Anu. I owe you a cheesesteak when you come to Philly, all right, buddy? So Nintendo dropped a video to their YouTube channel today called Launch Timing Update for The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild sequel. Very akin to the Metroid Prime video that we got. A little bit less apologetic because it's not quite as embarrassing, I don't think. But I'll read what Enuma said. So he said, for those of you who've been... They said the game was delayed, right? And then he said, for those of you who've been looking forward to a release this year, we apologize. As previously announced, the adventure in this sequel will take place not just on the ground as in the previous game, but also in the skies above. However, the expanded world goes beyond that, and there will be an even wider variety of features you can enjoy, including new encounters and gameplay elements. In order to make this game's experience something special, the entire development team is continuing to work diligently on this game, so please wait a while longer. So I thought this was interesting.
Yeah. What I'm hearing, Pete, is they got their hands on Elden Ring and realized there's a whole underground area in Elden Ring. So it was in the ground and in the sky, and they're like, well, shit, we need to go underground.
We gotta have three
options. Now they're just, exactly. So now they're digging under there, and they're building out a whole new underground map and area. That's what they're up to.
So, I mean... Did you both not get the impression that it was going underground too, though? Like from that first trailer? Because that's what I got.
Yeah, for sure. But I think the thing that, like, the wording of this feels like very deliberate, where, like, to your point, that initial trailer did show that. And I remember thinking, like, okay, like, maybe we'll see dungeons, like, who knows? But it felt like a nebulous thing, and when we had gotten direct confirmation of, like, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff in the sky, I was like, okay, so maybe that was just, like, a story beat, right? Whereas this makes me think that maybe dungeons are coming back, right? And it wouldn't necessarily be a whole underground area, but, like, you have the overworld, you have the up in the sky overworld, so you have basically two full overworlds, seemingly, or at least, sections like that. And then you similarly have big dungeons that you can go interact with to explore these old ruins and stuff, That's kind of the vibe I'm getting. What do you think about
I really
that?
like that. I think it's great. I think I would love linear dungeons back. When I was playing some of Ocarina of Time, they were definitely the best part of the game. And in Elden Ring, they're my favorite parts of the game as well. The linear dungeons where you go through. It's just fun to explore and find all the little secrets and figure out the puzzles and where you're meant to go. Link's Awakening was the same.
Dungeoneering is fun.
Link's Awakening dungeons. Yeah, it's really good. I enjoy it. I would like to see them come to Breath of the Wild. I think a small delay, 3 months.
Yeah.
I wonder how much of an impact this is on development and whether it is more of a scheduling thing.
I don't think it's to make a major sweeping change at this point. Yeah, like that's not enough time. Like I
imagine it's just like finishing things up a little bit more slowly than anything, because this feels like definitely similar to that Animal Crossing delay where I had already set my heart to like December 31st, 2019, and when they made it March 20th, I was like, oh, okay, so like 3 months later than I actually wanted it. So I don't think it's going to be like too bad or anything like major. But like back to the dungeons part. Yes, I love dungeons, but I think the thing I missed more in Breath of the Wild was towns. And there were like towns and things in Breath of the Wild, but they're kind of like scattered about. They're
very static too, right? Like it's like nothing really changes in them. There's not really much for you to do there.
There's not a lot out in the world at all. That's something I really want to expand upon in Breath of the Wild too, is actually have NPCs that you can have meaningful interactions with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I missed a lot. Like just feeling like I was in a place where other people were, and
Yeah.
this game is just very lonely after however many hours you put into it, depending on how long you want to, you know? But
Yeah. Yeah, because it's
yeah, I
interesting, like,
just
how alive the world feels, but also, like, so little of it changes. You know,
hmm
I think that would be nice. Like, you know, like there's like that quest where you build out that town and you have to like find all the people, and like
yeah.
I think like things like that would be cool if there were more quests within the town that like, you know, oh, it's being, you know, terrorized by monsters, and then you come through and you beat them up, and then more people move there, right? And like there's more
I would
Yeah.
like
activity in the
that.
town square, like things like that would
And
be
I'd like
nice.
to see. I would love to see things happen in the world once you do a mission or complete a dungeon that has repercussions and effects on stuff that's going on in the world. Like you did have some of that. Like when you completed one of the divine beasts, they would move and do something, and you'd have that like big beam of
hmm
light come out. But it would be cool if that had more repercussions, and you saw different people moving and things happening across the world, and that maybe opened up to another new dungeon that you could then access because you couldn't get there before because it was in the way or something. And that's the
hmm
kind of linear stuff that we used to get in the Zelda games that they went away from in Breath of the Wild, and I think quite rightly so. But I'd like to get back to those proper dungeons that you used to go through and explore and figure out the puzzles, and every single one felt different. Because the as great as the Divine Beasts were, they weren't dungeons.
Yeah, no, like I don't know, it would be nice to like we broke down the conventions, right? So now it's kind of like you have an opportunity to be like, okay, so like what of those can fit into the new framework, and like how do they work? And now that like cuz like again, if you add dungeons, right? Like you probably couldn't add them in the traditional way that the game has worked without really limiting the way that the player progresses through the game. And I feel like that's kind of against the mythos, or not the mythos, the ethos of Breath of the Wild. So like that's an interesting question of like if there are 7 dungeons, say, like, you can't tie them all to items and things in the way that you used to, or at least to some degree you can't, because you ideally want the player to be able to complete them in any order, or at least have some control over how they complete
hmm
them. So like how does that work, right? Is it like, oh, you beat this dungeon and you got this item, and now you can interact with like these 3 other ones, but you can't interact with these ones until you beat this one? And like all of those are interesting questions that I would like to see how the team answers them. And like
Yeah, and there's so many directions they can go too, because I mean, like the story itself began in the sky with Skyward Sword and everything, but then like we're seeing what's taken place like after 10,000 years of the original hero or whatever that is, and I'm just like there's a lot of opportunity with the underground where it could be a bit archaeological and you can discover like a lot of the ancient beings that were there and their technology, and that could introduce new items that you use for their dungeons and stuff. So I think the opportunity's there for sure, but oh, it just makes me so excited though to play it too, because I'm like, there's so much you could do with this if there is like an underground and all the sky things. So
you got to imagine
yeah,
they're feeling the pressure too. I think it's
oh
probably
for
part of the
sure.
delay, right? Of like, how do you follow up what not most, but what many people think of as the best game of all time, or one of the best games of all time, if not at
hmm
least the best game in the series, right? A lot of people feel that way. That's a tough act to follow. And like, I don't necessarily think that this is the motivation for delaying it, but like, when you think about the fact that you have that potential for like the sophomore slump where people are like, oh, cool, it's more Breath of the Wild. That's great, but it's not novel anymore. In the same year that Elden Ring came out,
I think that's the
that
difficulty, right? It's
sucks,
gonna
right?
be compared to Elden Ring every single time because I think Elden
hmm
Ring really expanded on that open world formula, and it does a lot of the same things Breath of the Wild does, where you can defeat the bosses in any order you want. It
Yeah.
dumps you into the world, it tells you what your goal is, which is to take all of these enemies down and then go to the capital and do that and then done
I think these
and
two
become the Elden
games
Lord.
Yeah, these two games are gonna just keep coming out back and forth, and it's gonna keep switching from like, oh, it's the Breath of the Wild of Dark Souls. Oh, it's the Dark Souls of Breath of the Wild. Just like keep swapping those two. It's gonna keep happening.
Yeah, we're gonna have animation locked bosses and fights where you can't roll or do anything until it checks the flask to see if there's any drops left in there. No, there's not. So then you can dodge.
No, I
He's
think
gonna
we'll be
love
okay. Thank God. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, not to say that they delayed it to get out of Elden Ring's way, but like if you feel like the game needs more time, why not delay it, right? Because
they got Pokemon coming up as well. Like Pokemon's the back half of this year anyway. Yeah. It's not like they needed a big game to fill that space. They've got the two big mainline Pokemon.
I think it has a better chance to come out next year and not be fighting for oxygen in the same way it would be this year, where it's like, not to say that
everyone thought that of every game that got delayed to March this year. It was like, oh yeah, it's great, Horizon will move and there won't be anything, and then Elden Ring got moved and everything. Kirby was there.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, there's really never a safe time to come out at this point, but like, I don't know. I think between the fact that Horizon came out this year, that Elden Ring came out this year, and that Starfield is supposed to come out this year, that's a lot of games in very similar veins fighting for, room in the conversation. And not to say that Breath of the Wild would struggle, but if it comes out next year and there isn't 3 other really big open world RPGs that are in a similar style, it'll look a lot better. And like it won't worry about having the vote split or like being like, oh, we're the other game that came out this year. Like that's not they don't want that, right? They want to come out and dominate the conversation and do what they did with Breath of the Wild, and like right now, right, especially if the game does need a little bit more time to cook, it's like, do you really want to come out now and risk From Software eating your lunch? It's like, take your time, right? Like this is an important game. Like,
so what we know for certain then is that Horizon's DLC is scheduled for spring 2023. It's gonna come out the week after or the exact same week.
For Horizon, that game, that poor series is just gonna be overshadowed by something every single time it comes out. Which is sad because I really want to play it, but
it's bullshit.
I don't know.
You're just like, yeah, but there's another game coming out next week that's even more exciting, so I'll just play that one instead.
Shout out to your dad.
I just killed Pete. I just Pete just choked on his water when I said that thing about Horizon.
Shout out to your dad for being a man of culture. That's all I'll say. He came in our Discord today.
He's had a great time.
Forbidden West is my game of the year.
Yeah, he's having a great time with it. He's way ahead of me. He showed me things that I haven't unlocked while I was there, and I was like, Dad, I don't want to see the spoilers.
You're never going to finish it, you son of a bitch.
I will. I'll finish it. I will. But
better.
That's a conversation.
You can do that spoiler cast.
We're getting closer to seeing these consoles in stores. I sent you both a picture of an Xbox Series S.
Yeah.
That was the first time I saw one on a shelf, and it still wasn't the X, so... Not quite there, but
get the S though. That's pretty good.
Yeah, not too bad.
So
but that said, PlayStation 5, I'll play Horizon when it comes my way.
Yeah, do it. Yeah,
I hope so. Yeah, they're worth your time. I think you'd like them. So, question here from TK from the Discord. This also makes room for something else Zelda related this year. Will we be seeing a re-release of the Wii U HD versions? What do we think about this?
TK. Yeah, I mean, did you not listen to episode 20 of Nintendo Noise where we all predicted that Wind Waker HD was being ported to Nintendo Switch
we did talk
around
about
the summer of this year?
The craziest thing to me, Steve, is that you thought that was coming out and Breath of the Wild was coming out, and that just makes no sense to me.
Why?
Because why would they do that?
Because it's Nintendo. They don't care. They put 6 Pokemon games out a year.
That's different. Okay. You can't look at... That's the Pokemon company. They make their own moves, man. They're not putting out 2 Zelda games in a year. What are you, crazy?
I'd see it happening. I definitely could see it happening. I would have thought it would have been last year, though, that they would have done it on the anniversary, yeah.
So for Wind Waker HD, I said it would come in July 15th. Steve said August 12th, and Chewy said August 5th. So, I think we will. I think we will see a re-release of a old Zelda game to tide us over. It worked fine enough last year, right? Why not? And we know we have Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess that are done and dusted, right? Like,
I should have made this a prediction, but there's also still like Grezzo working on something Zelda related.
Is it Zelda
maybe
We
related?
know
they're
it's
bringing.
Zelda related.
I thought they're working on a non-Zelda related thing. I thought they have an original project in development right now.
Well,
I hope it's Mother.
I'm confused. I think it was like roughly like something mythological or medieval or something along those lines. I
Wasn't
don't
the
know. People
medieval
got
thing?
some.
Wasn't that Metopia? The
Oh yeah,
medieval
it
thing?
could be Metopia.
Yeah.
So bad. But who knows? Like, they could always have Grezzo secretly working on some Zelda
hope so.
reboot. Like
That
maybe the
2D is
Oracle
phenomenal.
games or something could be brought back. So I don't know.
I
They
hope
they could do a
so.
lot with Zelda.
Four swords, but you can actually play it with people because you don't need to all
Oh
be in the same
man,
space with 4 GBAs, and it'll be easy to play then.
a new Four Swords with online, just everybody being able. That would be the dream.
That would be really cool.
I would love that.
I would love for
Stream.
them to make Oracle of Ages, Seasons, Four Swords, and Minish Cap over.
hmm
Those would all be
I'd
great.
be fine if that's
All
the
of those are
launch
excellent.
lineup for Game Boy on Switch. It's just like we're doing all of the
Oh,
Game Boy on
man.
Switch, all the way up to the Advance. It's just like you've got all
They're
these
not
Zeldas.
doing that. That's two
No, they're not.
different SKUs. You're crazy. They're gonna be like Game Boy
if we
and
have
Game
anything,
Boy
I
Advance
want
at the same
GBA.
time. No way.
I want Advance more than I want Game Boy at this point. Like there's so many good games on that. After we did that Game Boy Advance episode last week, I was just like, oh man, there was so much good stuff on that console I missed, and I
Yeah.
want to play it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a hell of a lineup there. So yeah, I don't know. I hope we get another Zelda thing this year. I would love a Wind Waker port finally. I've been wanting to play that game again for a long time, and I don't want to play it on the Wii U.
Watch it be Twilight Princess. Just watch
Oh.
it.
Knowing
watch it be
my
Twilight
luck,
Princess
that's
now.
exactly what'll happen. 100%.
Yeah, because we were all like, we were sure we were getting it, and it was Skyward Sword, and it's just like what? And I could absolutely see it being Twilight Princess now after the Wind Waker.
Yeah, probably. I
Yeah.
can't have nice things, so
But
that's probably
even-
what'll happen.
I mean, we know so much about this year too already, though. Like Mario Strikers, Switch Sports, Advance Wars at some point to whatever day they delayed it to. Fire Emblem Warriors, Three Hopes, your favorite, Pete. Splatoon 3,
tough year for me.
Mario and Rabbids, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Pokemon. It's stacked. Like, do they need Zelda?
That's true.
Not really.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Would we like it for sure? But I mean, early next year. That's not too bad. It's not too bad a wait.
That's why I think a port makes sense. Like the idea of like them pulling out like Twilight Princess or Wind Waker in like a slow period, or if any of these other games get delayed, something like that. It could happen. I wouldn't put money on it necessarily, but because to your point, they've got a full calendar.
Mhm.
Would you rather have that or a 2D Zelda come over?
Like as a remake or
Yeah, like a Link Between Worlds or whatever. They bring that over. They tart it up a little bit.
I wouldn't mind a Link Between Worlds, honestly. Like I
Yeah.
never got to play it on 3DS,
really
and
good.
now I mean I could pick it up for pretty cheap at this point, and I should before the eShop dies. But if it comes to Switch, I'll
think-
grab that.
Yeah, I would definitely play that game again. Don't get me wrong, but I think I'd rather have Wind Waker because it's been longer since I've played Wind Waker. Right, like I
Yeah,
played
makes sense.
Link Between
you not
Worlds
play it
when
on
it was
Wii U?
new. What's that?
Did you not play Wind Waker on Wii U?
I started it on Wii U, but I didn't finish it. I remember
Mm-hmm.
picking it up and being like, awesome, like this is a great port, like I'm definitely going to play this again. And then like something new came out or whatever, and I got pulled away by like a brand new game on the PS4 or whatever, and I was like, I'll come back to this, and I just never did. Because by the time I think I was ready to come back to it, I was a little sour on the Wii U,
Yeah.
So I'd love to get another stab at it.
Yeah, I played it a while back on the Wii U, but at this point, it's been several years. I want to say it was maybe like 2015 or 16 when I
Yeah.
played it. So
It's quite a bit of
it's
time.
been a while.
I think it's time. Bring it back. Bring it back, Nintendo. Let's do it. What better time than now? So that's where we'll wrap it for today. Thank you all for joining us here on another episode of Nintendo Noise. If you want to write in with your thoughts on Kirby and the Forgotten Lands or on the sequel to Breath of the Wild 2, remember, there's a bunch of ways you can do that. Hit us up at questions@flipscreen.games. Come and join our Discord. Share your thoughts on this episode and any of the stuff we talked about, or write in with a brand new topic that you'd like to hear us talk about. Over on our sister show, the Flip Screen Games podcast, the last couple episodes have all been dedicated to listener questions for the main topic. So you could have your main topic discussed here on the air. Wouldn't that be exciting? So write in all those ways that you can. Head over to flipscreen.games, our website, where you can engage with us wherever you get your video game content. We're out there making some stuff for you. So come and hang out with us. Come be a part of what we're building here at Flipscreen Games. We greatly appreciate your support, however you choose to show it. So, for Nintendo Noise, I've been Pete. He's been Chewy. He's been Steve. We'll see you next week.
In captions, Chewie and Steve wave goodbye.